Oh, baby, it is time for the fourth major championship of the 2024 season. It is the RotoWire Rundown for the 152nd Open Championship played at Royal Troon. My name is Keith Stewart, the host every week for the RotoWire Rundown from Read the Line. I am joined, of course, by three-time award-winning and senior golf writer at RotoWire, Mr. Len Hochberg. Len, greetings.
Good day, gentlemen.
And as we've done for the last two major championships, we are joined by two more staff members from RotoWire. First, Mr. Ryan Andrade, golf editor. Ryan, how are you today?
Doing great. Happy to be here as always.
And one more, we have Ryan Pohle, which is our DFS product specialist. Ryan Pohle, welcome to the show. It's our third rundown in a row for our fourth major of the year.
Yeah, hey guys, good to be here. Coming from sunny Las Vegas this week.
I am coming from heat-stricken New York City. So hopefully Vegas is a little bit cooler than it is out here. But as they always say to Len and I, cut through the small talk, get to the stuff that matters, right? So we're going to start off real quick. Len, I'm going to go to you first. We're coming to Royal Troon for the 10th time in the Open Rota in order to play the Open Championship, which some like me commonly refer to, and you, as the British Open. But that's neither here nor there. As you start to build your lineups out this week for the DFS, when you did your player rankings for the entire field of 159, I think it's up to now, right? What were the key skills and characteristics that you were looking for in the players with which to rank them for this year, the Open Championship at Troon?
I mean, the number of characteristics, there always are, Keith. But I think if I had to pick two, just to narrow it down, ball striking and scrambling. We saw that in 2016. Henrik Stenson, one of the great ball strikers with his 3-wood. Is there any golfer more associated with one club than Henrik Stenson is with his 3-wood? He put on a master class in getting to 20 under. And, he 3-wooded his way around, and he didn't use driver a ton off the tee. He used, because there is so much trouble lurking, bunkers, fescue, gorse, all kinds of stuff like that. So ball striking. And typical of open courses, we have the runoffs around the greens. You're going to be off the green a lot, rolling, you'll have the option of putting, chipping, 7-iron, who knows, 5-wood, whatever they may want to do off the green to get up onto the putting surface again. So in a nutshell, those two characteristics more than anything. But of course, this is a major. It's a lot more than that.
You're absolutely true. And for me, it's easy to point to approach play from under 100 yards or approach play from 200 yards or further. A lot of these things map out and people are putting them in their models. But what's most important that you can't put in a model is what is the forecast this week? And it keeps kind of evolving as the week takes place. And we are sitting here on midday Tuesday, and the best that we know right now is that we're going to get what we would call maybe a nuisance rain on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And why I call it a nuisance rain is it's just persistent. It's not a storm, and it's not a drizzle either. It is basically, I guess, a summer vacation over there for these guys in Scotland, right? They are right on the water, right on the Firth of Clyde. And what's most interesting to me is that not necessarily just the rain or the temperature sitting right around the low 60s is this wind that they're predicting so far. It's coming out of the southwest. Now, we know the prevailing wind for this golf course and its design, in holes 1 through 6, like to play downwind, and they face southeast, which means the prevailing wind is northwest. Well, with a southwest wind that they're predicting, that's going to blow across the golf course. So I'm really interested. And one of the things that I'm featuring is, what are these guys going to do from a driving game plan? Look at those first 3 holes. They're all under 400 yards. On any other golf course in any other part of the world, those become drivable. Certainly if we're in the United States, these guys are pulling out the big stick, and Rory and Bryson and the longer players like Scotty, they're trying to hit it greenside and get up and down, maybe even try to score eagle. Are they going to try to avoid the pot bunkers, and what are they going to do with this crosswind? And then the second thing I'll say is that this is a major championship on slow Scottish, maybe sticky greens. I think the putting over there is a little bit of a different skill than it is over here in the United States. So I'm going to feature some putting as well. And what that's all going to do is it's going to build towards some storylines with that narrative, Len, for this whole week. But coming in, there's a couple other interesting storylines that I'd like to touch upon. So I'm going to bring the Ryans into play here. First, I'm going to go with you, Ryan Andrade, right? Scotty Scheffler. We haven't seen him in roughly a month since he won at the Travelers and extra holes, and there was protesters and all sorts of things were going on, and he took down Tom Kim. What do you expect to see from Scotty? And just out of curiosity, where would you place this season should things work out come Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, most of the top players play the Scottish Open, right? So, they've already got their first sort of feel with a link style course. So, certainly he's had lots of time off since that Travelers win. The week before that, the U.S. Open certainly didn't go how I think most people expected. But yeah, I mean, like you look at his Open Championship record and it's fairly solid, T8, T21, T23. He could become the 9th player to win the Masters and the Open in the same year. Those, to me, I've always felt like those are like the most prestigious of the majors. And, as great of a season as he's had, right? 6 wins, he's won a major. I think when we look back at some of these like historic years, really all of them have at least 2 majors. And it really feels like, even if he were to go on to win the FedEx Cup later, it would just be a great season. But to get 2 majors in a year is, we rarely see that, and that would really put him in that upper echelon of seasons.
Well, there's no doubt it'll be in the upper echelon. And I got an email earlier today from Colin Montgomery, and he let me know that Tiger won 6 times in 2 different seasons, right? He actually had a 7-win season once. He had 2 more seasons with 8 wins and 1 season with 9 wins. But I do think if Scotty was to get to 7 or 8 wins in 2 majors, it would be quite historic. Speaking of history, it's tough for us to forget some of that. But can Rory forget the history of the pain at Pinehurst? Ryan Poole, do you want to chime in here? What do you think about Rory's rehab month? Do you think that he's ready to go again? Or do you think that, mental baggage like what he faced on the last 3 holes with the putter at Pinehurst number 2 is too tough to shake?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think there'd be a little bit more of a question had, Rory not played the Scottish Open last week, so we kind of got to see how he would bounce back. I know a major is different, but, Rory really values these national opens, and he came to play. He finished in a share for 4th. He, his strength off the tee, he was 2nd in strokes gained off the tee. So, even guys like Rory, as much as they've been around, you feel like they've experienced everything. I think he can take something from what happened at the U.S. Open, whether it be, the questionable club selection on 16, I think it was the par 3 there where he went long and made bogey, and even on 18, to think a little bit more about where you're leaving, putts uphill or downhill. But, Rory always plays so well in Open Championship venues that I'm not really, concerned about any kind of scar tissue heading into this week.
So you believe that Rory can turn it around at Troon, right? Or at least maintain
100%.
100%. All right. Interesting. Yeah. Well, let's go back over to you, Ryan Andrade. There's been another guy that's been better than Scotty and Rory, if you're looking at the standings, and only one of 2 guys, Xander being the other, that could finish top 10 in all 4 majors this year. And that's the reigning U.S. Open champion, his 2nd U.S. Open, and that's Bryson DeChambeau. Do you feel like the way that Bryson went T6 at Augusta, a place he's never really been successful, the way that he game planned and used strategy to go around Pinehurst in order to tackle that and take home the U.S. Open title, do you think that Bryson can figure out Troon, or do you think he's just going to try to run in there and take it over with driver? And where do you see this going? Because I'm really interested on how these guys are going to go after, especially these first couple holes, which I alluded to earlier, Ryan Andrade.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. I mean, you look at Bryson's like Open record, and it's not really that great. He's got only 1 top 30 finish and 6 starts, so that's not great. And really, it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Bryson's a guy that likes to just game plan everything, to calculate it all to the nth degree. And, when you go to an Open Championship, it's a lot more, creativity. There's humps and hollows. You don't know where the ball is going to roll out to. There's wind, there's rain, there's all sorts of different factors that, it's hard to game plan for. And so that's probably a lot of the reason why he struggled in the Open. But hey, this feels like a really different Bryson. Like his short game is so much better than it used to be, and he's putting it great as well. I think really the key is just like being in control. There's a lot of holes, like you said, those first few holes, if the wind does shift a little bit and it goes downwind, he's going to have some self-control to not just rip out driver all the time. And, because there's so much trouble that, a pot bunker here or there that can cost you a shot just like that. So he's definitely going to be a fascinating watch, as he always is. But, I think there's a lot of other guys that I'm favoring a little bit more this week than Bryson.
All right. Now, I want both of the Ryans to think about this one. Troon has been an interesting open host site. As a venue, the last 4 winners there, it's all been their first major of their career. And there's a number of guys that are out there. Tommy Fleetwood, Tony Finau, Patrick Cantlay, all these big names, right? These guys, and a lot of them are in very good form, are coming into this. Much like a Brian Harman did last year. He was 12th at the Scottish Open, came in, and then he won at Royal Liverpool. Is there somebody this week, in your mind, that can follow that Troon trend and take home their first major of their career in the Open Championship? And I'll start first with you there, Ryan Poole. Why don't you let me know, who do you think out of that pool of guys that could win their first major here at Troon alongside the Firth of Clyde?
Yeah, when we kind of talked about this at the U.S. Open, I had mentioned Fleetwood, and I think anytime you're talking about this topic, Fleetwood's going to come to the top of the list. It would be really fitting. If he won the Open Championship, it's probably the most likely one, for him to win. But believe it or not, I'm looking at Tony Finau. Finau's actually played really well lately. If you look at strokes gained tee to green last 20 rounds, only Scheffler and McIlroy have gained more in that area. Across his last 9 starts, we're looking at 7 top 20s, including back-to-back top 5s. And he has had Open Championship success. I know sometimes people are a little bit, scared to go with some of the Americans, but, because it's a much different style of golf than they're used to. But, he does have a solo third at the British Open, 4 top 20s. So I think Finau is a little too under the radar this week.
I love the Finau pick. And in fact, had Stenson not pulled off that 63 and it was Phil instead, that would have been 7 Americans in a row over here at Troon. And with Bryson's win, we're looking at 7 Americans in a row in majors. So the last non-American to win a major was Rahm at the Masters last year. Last year, right? So 6 in a row for Americans. There's been a lot of American dominance. Is your first-time major winner Ryan Andrade an American, or is it somebody else that you think could pull it off at Troon?
He's not American, but my guy that I would be looking at is Victor Hovland. It's been sort of an interesting major season for him, right? He missed the cut at the Masters, missed the cut at the U.S. Open, but was right there at Valhalla. So, he's played well. He's got 3 top 15s in all his Open Championship appearances. And, obviously he knows how to play over here and play the conditions. His ball striking continues to remain strong, and he's starting to putt closer to what we saw towards the end of last season. So, obviously the question with him is always the short game. And I think to some degree, the short game around, some of these link style courses is a little bit different of just what it's asking from you. You're not going to see as many, 60 degrees, face open, things like that. It's going to be a lot more putting off the green, 50-degree pitching wedge, 9 irons, just trying to roll the ball in close. And I sort of think scrambling is important, but it's sort of a different style of scrambling than we normally see. That's going to prop its head up here.
Len, before we get back to the DFS names and we take the next step in this little talk, the rundown here, I'm going to bring you back in. Do you have someone in mind that could be a first-time major winner here at Troon? I mean, it keeps happening, edition after edition right here. And I just wonder, you've got a lot of names in your head. You did the rankings and everything. Who is the one guy you think could be, and it could be one of the guys that they've already picked, but who do you think is the one guy could be a first-time major winner here, like Brian Harman was a year ago?
Yeah, those names are all worthy of consideration. I'm surprised that even in passing, Tyrrell Hatton has not come up as yet. because I have him very highly ranked. I have him in my top 10. He's been playing well. He's had a number of good Open Championships. I think he is as strong maybe I would put Fleetwood first on my list of who could be a first-time major winner at this tournament. But Tyrrell Hatton has been coming up on the outside for me, closing fast as we get to the finish line. So I like him a lot this week, and he's proven, that he can play well. He can play well here. He played here in 2016, and he has been playing well this season in the majors and on LIV. He really checks off just about every box.
Well, if we get Hatton and near the final group on a Sunday and in contention, the rain coming down and just a true Scottish day, they're going to have to turn the hot mics off, because I think he's going to go full Tyrrell. But it would be very, very, very fun to watch for all of us. Now, speaking of fun, you and I love to do this every week, Len, and I'm going to put you at the top of the board first. It's time for the names. DFS strategy, when you're building out your lineups, when you're looking at the elite class, there's 6 guys above 10,000, right? When you started, not just the player rankings, but as you put all of this together, who are you favoring at the top of the board?
Yeah, for the first time in a long time, I did not have Scotty Scheffler as one of my DraftKings picks. And he is 12-8. He is 1,300 more than DeChambeau at 11-5. Math. As I wrote, if there's ever a tournament where you can fade, and fade is probably too strong a word, if there's ever a tournament where I think you can look the other way from Scotty Scheffler, it's this tournament. It is the Open Championship. He has been okay here. As Ryan mentioned earlier, he's finished 8th here 3 years ago in his first visit. That's the best he's done. He's had 2 top 25s. This is not where he would excel, where I would pick him to excel. So I think if there's ever anywhere to go away from Scheffler, it's this week, especially at his high price. I do like DeChambeau. DeChambeau has not played well here, as Ryan mentioned, in this tournament, sort of like Scheffler. They both have tie for 8th, but we've seen just a different Bryson DeChambeau this year. He's reinvented himself. He's lovable. He's cuddly. He's fun. He's engaging. I mean, who would have thought that just, 20 minutes ago from Bryson DeChambeau? It's amazing what you can do when you switch hats, and you become such a more likable guy just by doing that. So I do like him at 11-5. I think he is going to have to, I don't think he's just going to be able to take out driver, because, your pot bunkers are pot bunkers and you can't get away from them. So I think he's going to figure that out and take a little bit off, and he can 3-wood his way around and still hit it as long as a lot of people hit driver. So I do like him. Rory, I like Rory, but this is a different story. We saw last week, he played pretty well, but that was about as soft a landing as possible for Rory McIlroy. Pretty much a home game, on a link-style course, adoring crowd, not a major. I think it's going to be a different story, or he will have to negotiate a different set of circumstances if he's in the mix on Sunday. And but I do like him to be there. He's there every year, pretty much, in the Open Championship. And the third guy that I had in my article, I'm getting a little bit of buyer's remorse on Ludwig Hochberg. He's only at 10-1. He's significantly lower than the other 2 guys. But I did not like what I saw from him, on the late on Sunday at the Scottish, especially at 16, where he had that chip up the hill, and he just played himself out of the tournament right there with a terrible chip. So I think that, I still think that scrambling is going to be huge. Yes, as Ryan mentioned, there's different ways to scramble here, but you're still going to have to get the ball close from or off the green, and he didn't show me that he can do that. And so also about Hochberg, if I can continue to shoot down my own pick, in the last 7 tournaments that he's made the cut, in 6 of them, his worst round was Sunday. That won't cut it this week. He has been playing poorly in the final round. I don't know if that's because his knee starts flaring up after 3 days, or if it's nerves or whatever, but it's a bad trend that you're not doing well in the 4th round.
Maybe he's training for LIV. He only wants to play 3 rounds. No, we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. But what I will do is that I will go back to your description of some of the players there in the 10K range, and it kind of reminds me of who's sitting down there in the 9K range. You said Lovable, maybe Morikawa, Cuddly, Koepka, and Engaging Hatton, and there's a bunch of other names in the 9K range. Who are you picking?
Yeah, I think we all have to like Morikawa. He's been playing great ever since the Masters. And, you know, if it wasn't for Scottie Scheffler, he probably would have won that Masters. But, of course, Scheffler will be there again this week. But he's really been playing very well. And he's been doing it without the hallmark of his game being at its apex. He's missed the cut the last 2 years at the Open. I think that's just coincidence more than anything else. You will have to hit the ball straight. You will have to get the ball in the fairway or at least away from the pot bunkers this week. And guys who are accurate off the tee will have a good week this week. I think even more than the distance guys, and Morikawa is there. And also in the 9s, Tyrrell Hatton, who I just talked about earlier for all the reasons. And Tommy Fleetwood is another guy. He's always here at the Open Championship. He plays well in just about all the majors. He's had a lot of successful majors. And, I think of all the tournaments to win his first PGA Tour event, I think this is his best chance in the Open Championship.
Well, thanks for that breakdown of the upper part of the board. I'm going to transition over to Ryan Andrade for, what we're looking into now is the 8K range, right? We've got 7 players there. 5 are major winners. And then you've got Tom Kim and Tony Finau. Are you going with a major player, or are you going with somebody who's maybe doesn't have a trophy like that at home? Who do you like in the 8s?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because the 2 guys that stood out for sure in that range were Finau and Tom Kim. I mean, Ryan touched on it earlier. Finau, he's come in 5 straight top 20 finishes, 2 straight top 5s. He's got 4 top 20s at the Open, and one of those was actually back in 2016 at Royal Troon. So, the real difference for him is, we know his iron play is great, but he's starting to actually putt it a lot better recently, which is, that's been hurting him for as long as I can remember, really. So, definitely one to watch out there. Tom Kim as well. He's been top 30 in 6 of his last 8 starts. He was T2 at the Open last year. And that was also on a bum ankle. So that was a story last year for sure. He's extremely accurate off the tee. And his iron play and putting continues to get better and better. So, distance, like we said, this is probably the least important major for distance. And, Tom Kim obviously doesn't hit it that far, but, he's going to be putting himself in the fairway more often than not. And so this would be a perfect spot for him to contend at.
Oh, there's a lot of conversation around Tom Kim and a little bit of a disappointing week out there at Scotland in the at the Renaissance Club for the Scottish Open. But I'm sure that there's a lot of people who are building out lineups with Tom Kim as a pillar in that position. 7K land. I mean, this is an interesting group. I mean, this place is it's like a cemetery where we're trying to resurrect careers, or there's guys on the way up. But I mean, I see people like Spieth down here, Zalatoris, Homa. Is there value there, or are you looking at more of these talented young guys that are on an upswing? Who do you like in 7K land, Ryan Andrade?
Yeah, well, I think honestly, it's like one of those situations where, right, like the pricing came out before the Scottish Open, so there's a couple guys in here that their salary doesn't really match their odds, and like the 2 obvious ones that stand out to me are Robert McIntyre and then Aaron Rai. You got McIntyre at 7,700. Is he gonna be sober enough to tee off in time for the Open Championship? We don't know. He's basically playing 2 majors in a row at home. So he's going to have lots of support, and can he keep just riding that high? And then you look at Aaron Rai. It kind of shocked me when I saw it. I was like, he's up to 19th in the Data Golf rankings, which that was not on my bingo card to start the year, was that Aaron Rai would be in the top 20 of those rankings. So, he's playing fantastically. Obviously, it doesn't matter if we're playing the John Deere or in Detroit or in Scotland. Like he's he's still showing out. And if it does get a little rainy and sort of nasty up there, he's got those 2 gloves, and he's already has plenty of experience playing like that. So definitely one to watch there.
All right, great job there, Ryan Poole. I'm going to jump down to 6K land here. And, as I look at these guys down here, I think almost the biggest, and Ryan Andrade just touched upon it there, the biggest misprice on this whole board has got to be Sung J M in the 6s. Do you agree with that? Is he somebody that you're featuring, or who else did you find with a lot of value down in 6K land?
Yeah, I mean, Im is an obvious misprice. DraftKings releases the salaries on major weeks, earlier than usual. But Im should have been more than 6,900, before he finished tied for 4th last week. He's been really good over the last 2 months. The downside is I don't love taking guys in the 6K range that, 15% of the field's probably gonna take. So, I mean, I think Im's a fine play, but there's definitely ways that you can be contrarian in this range. Louis Oosthuizen's going to be really popular as well, playing in his first major of the year. One guy I like down at 6,200 is Victor Perez. He's kind of come on as of late, has plenty of experience on link style golf. The Frenchman was 10th in Scotland last week, 3rd at the Canadian Open. So, like what I'm seeing out of Perez.
How about down in the 5K land? I mean, now that we've had all this, extended pricing at the top, it seems like pretty much standard operating business that we get a 5K land. And there's a lot of names down here that we don't know, whether they be DP World Tour kind of journeyman, or it is qualifiers, or it's a past champion or something. But these 5K guys, should they do anything, they can really, really help a lineup. Is there anyone down here that you can help us out with?
Yeah, I mean, and if you're gonna, start your lineup with Scheffler, you're probably gonna have to dip down into the 5K range. But we're gonna see a lot of these guys make the cut. And one guy I'm looking at 5,800 is Matthew Jordan, who finished top 10 at last year's Open. He also was, tied for 26 at the Scottish Open. In this range, hey, that's good enough for me. You're not gonna find a lot of these guys that give you a ton of confidence. You kind of have to take what you can get. But I'm also looking at Matteo Manassero at 5,400, excuse me. He's had an interesting career, but is all of a sudden showing signs of life recently. Last week at the Scottish Open, he was 2nd in strokes gained approach. And we know that's going to be a key metric this week.
I mean, Manassero is definitely somebody that's on my radar down there in the 5K range. I mean, he sprung on the golf world when he won the British Amateur at 16 years old, the youngest one ever to do that. And he's had an up and down career, but he's got it back as of recent on the DP World Tour, and he's making strides. So I think that's a great 5K pick down there. Now, speaking of great picks, it's time to shift over to the betting side of the board. And I'm going to give you guys each an opportunity to give me one winner and one placement bet that you're featuring this week. So, Len, I'm going to start with you, right? Len Hochberg, who's going to win? Who are you betting to win? And give me another best bet placement on your card.
Well, I've already been asked who I'm going to, who is going to win. I take part in the shameless plug Sports Illustrated Bettors Roundtable every major. And so they've asked me who I thought was going to win. And for some reason, I picked Rory McIlroy. The man has been coming back from heartache throughout his career. He is as resilient as he is snake bit. I know that it's going to be quite a chore for him to win this week, but it's going to be quite a chore for anyone to win this tournament. It is a major. But I liked what I saw last week, at least from the golf standpoint. I don't think his psyche was tested, so that will be a big consideration this week. But his golf game got right back on the horse, and he was pretty strong, and that was very encouraging to me. Looking at a top 10, I don't know how big of of a reach this is, but this guy's name has not come up, and he's in the low 8,000s, and not that that matters here, but I just to where he is in the landscape of who we're thinking about and where people are placing this guy. Shane Lowry, the 2019 Open champion. He can, it was Royal Portrush. There were a lot of circumstances there that led him to victory, but he's played pretty well since then. He's the most accurate driver on the PGA Tour. And I think that the rainier that things get and the worse the conditions are, it's like a pig in slop. I think he will handle that better than most, pardon to the Lowry family there. But I do like him. I think looking at a top 10 for Shane Lowry, wanted to get his name on this show and throw him out there.
Well, his name's on the show now there, Len. And I like both those picks, definitely. The one to win strikes a chord with me, but we'll get to that in a moment. First, let's listen to Ryan Andrade tell us, who do you bet to win, and give us a nice placement.
Yeah, well, I'm a little concerned about how good I feel about this one. John Rahm plus 2,500.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I haven't heard anybody talk about John Rahm at all this week. And, it makes sense because, he missed the US Open because of a foot injury. And then he didn't play well in the first two either. And yes, he's finished top 10 in every live start that he's had, but that when you're playing on live, it's really about what you're doing in the majors. And, the Open, I think he plays so good here. He's top 11 in 3 of the last 4 Opens. I love how great of a driver he is. And he's so good at controlling trajectory in the wind as well with all of his shots. So he was plus 2,200 yesterday when I looked, and he's plus 2,500 now. I'm hoping he just keeps falling, and I can just bet him at the very last second. And he's right behind Tommy Fleetwood's in front of him right now at plus 2,200. And the only thing we know about Tommy Fleetwood is that he doesn't win. So
Rahm's up to 28. So
is he? Okay.
Oh yeah, the trend is your friend.
Okay,
right.
So There we go. We're rolling there with Rahm. So. Yeah, I feel really good about that one. And then, a guy that I was looking at, why not go back to the defending champ, Brian Harman, top 20 plus 20, let's see, plus 210, I think was the last I saw it. He's top 20 in his last 3 Opens, and he's been quietly starting to round into form. T26 in 5 of his last 6 starts. And, his approach play is starting to get a lot better during that time and starting to match his putting as well. So, like we said, the Open, it's not really about distance, and it's just about putting yourself in the right positions. And I think he can certainly manage a top 20, especially if the conditions start to deteriorate.
All right, let's move on to Ryan Poole. Ryan Poole, who's your pick to win? And give us a nice placement.
Yeah, so I'm going to dip down to 60-1 and go with a little bit of a long shot, and I'm going to go with Cameron Young. For whatever reason, he just seems to love Open Championship venues. Back in 2022, in his debut, he was runner-up. He's top 10 at Royal Liverpool last year. He also ranked first in strokes gained off the tee and approach last year. I think at 60-1, it's just great value. He's also playing pretty well. Recently, back-to-back top 10s, one being a signature event. So I like the value there from Cam Young. And then for a placement bet, also going to dig a little deep here at 12-1 for a top 10. I'm going to go with Tom McKibben. May not be someone that everybody out there is familiar with, but he's 21 from Northern Ireland. He's had a great year on the DP World Tour. 3 straight top 10s, playing well. 12-1. I'll take a shot there with the youngster.
All right. Well, you're caught up in the content. Those are 2 guys right there that I hear their names a lot. There's no doubt about it. For me, best bet to win on the board is a guy who could really win this thing. And at plus 800, that's Rory McIlroy. So I'm in Len's camp. There has been no guy over the last 6 years that's been more consistent in majors. He will be there on Sunday. And of course, everyone's going to point to the putting at Pinehurst. But the fact of the matter is is that it really wasn't his putting that let him down on Sunday. It was his iron play. And I think he's got it ratcheted up. He played really well last week at the Scottish Open. He did everything that we needed him to do to kind of build up towards winning another major championship. And I think we would all agree that Rory rebounds better than anybody in golf. And if you look at the last couple of years, at some point he had to bottom out. I mean, and this last month has been a bit of rehab, but between the divorce rumors and the PIF saga and all these other things that were going on in Rory's world, it was nice to see him take a break. And I'm not a big Rory bettor or fan. And it's certainly, Len will tell you, this is probably the first time I've ever said his name on the rundown as far as a bet that I'm going to make. But in this major championship, I think it's his time at Troon, and his record in the Open or even in major championships speaks towards the fact that after those 2 wins this year, the guy has been impeccable. The only guy hitting the ball better than him is Scheffler. He's in fine enough form to do it. And I think that should we find ourselves in just a normal Seaside Links type atmosphere, then Rory has an advantage. Now, we've heard this other name on my placement board. I love a top 20 with a name that's been very popular today, and that's at plus 225. You can find Tony Finau. I think Tony Finau, he's played in 7 Open championships. He's had 6 top 30s. I mean, this guy's got 5 straight top 18 finishes. He's gaining over 9 strokes total on the field in his last 5 starts. I mean, what more do you need? He hits the ball flat. The guy has tons of ball speed, and he has an extremely underrated short game. He's gained with the putter over his last 3 starts. For me, a top 20 at almost 2.5 to 1. I love that pick. So that's the bet that I'm going with. Now, weather aside, or maybe weather included, since we don't really know on a Tuesday exactly what it might be, but we do have a good idea of what this golf course looks like. We know what the rough looks like. It looks very green. It is receptive. What do you guys feel like is going to be the final score? Ryan Andrade, what do you think the final score is going to be?
Yeah, I would say it's sort of in the middle of open roto courses as far as difficulty. Obviously the front side is extremely gettable. The par fours there are way shorter than the ones on the back, which typically play into the wind. So, we see a lot of times guys get 3, 4, 5 under par through the first 9 holes, and they turn around and, they're plus 7 coming in. It's just, that's how it goes at this course sometimes. And so, I think, we'll see rain at times. We'll see some gusty winds, but I'm going to go sort of right in the middle. I'll go 12 under for the winning score.
Ryan Poole, how about you? Winning score?
Yeah, I was thinking 11 under.
All right.
I'm not going to give a huge reasoning behind that.
All right, fair enough. I'm just looking for a total. And Len Hochberg, how about you? Winning score?
Yeah, I think we might, some people might be swayed and misled by what Stenson and Mickelson both did 8 years ago, 20 under and 17 under. Their rounds and their tournaments in a sense were historically great in retrospect, how good they played, because number 3 that week was J.B. Holmes, of course, who had 2 great majors that year. He was 6 under. So that's, I think Troon will play hard. The back 9, as Ryan said, will be a bear. I'm going to go 9 under.
Oh, single digits. Well, I think a soft golf course that isn't very long and it's extremely gettable in those first 8, 9 holes. I'm going to go with 15 under par. I think that there's going to be a bit of a scoring fest here, and unless something drastically changes with that wind, 15 miles an hour isn't enough to deter these guys. These are the best players in the world. This is the 4th major of the year. I'm looking at 15, and there's one name. I alluded to him earlier, but he hasn't come up again, and with good reason, right? He was T60 at the Masters, and then he missed the cut at the PGA. He missed the cut at the U.S. Open, but Tiger Woods is playing in the 152nd Open Championship. Len, what do you think his chances are to make the cut?
I don't think they're very good. I think, outside of Augusta, he is going to have trouble. He could play Augusta left-handed, blindfolded, probably for another 5 or 6 years. He knows that course so well. I think everywhere else is a real difficulty. If it's really cold and cool, that's not going to help all his various body parts that have been surgically reconstructed. I have him 99th in my full field rankings, so that puts him outside the cut. As I always say, whenever anyone asks me about Tiger Woods, this is the one pick where I hope I'm wrong.
Oh, well, I hope you're wrong too, but we'll find out more. Ryan Poole, what do you think? Tiger, does he make the cut? Yes or no?
Back at the U.S. Open, we all said no, and sure enough, he missed the cut. But I'm going to give him the Colin Montgomery boost this week, and I'm going to say that Tiger does see the weekend.
Oh, I like that. All right, how about you, Ryan Andrade?
Yeah, I wish I could say yes. I wish I could hop on, but I agree with Len. I think anytime you get cold and rainy, it's just not ideal for Tiger. And open courses should be theoretically good for him, just based on distance isn't as big of a factor, and it's more about precision and iron play and that sort of thing. But yeah, I would go miscut for Tiger, unfortunately.
For me, this season's been a tale of two trends. The first trend is that obviously he's missing cuts in majors and he's been, not much of a factor. So for that reason, I think he misses the cut again. But there is one trend that I do like. He looks healthier in these practice rounds than he's looked the entire year, whether it be at the Genesis, chewing down a hamburger there, an In-N-Out burger, or whether it was, the Masters or anything else. So I think that the trend is our friend in many ways there. I think Tiger's getting stronger and healthier, and I look forward to him dominating in December and then taking that as a big step towards 2025. But otherwise, I think it's a 2-day trip for him to Troon, and that's all I have to say. I mean, I love Tiger, and like Len, I'll say, I hope this is the one bet where I'm terribly wrong. Now, that being said, I'm going to wrap up the rundown here. Guys, it's been awesome being with you for the last 3 major championships. We got to talk to the folks at RotoWire. We got to get a playoff special together. We got to get a President's Cup special together. We got to do something. We can't put this to bed before 2024 is over. So we'll have Len petition the powers that be. But until then, you'll see Len and I next week at previewing the 3M Open. Enjoy the Open Championship and the coffee golf, everyone. Ryan Andrade, Ryan Poole, Len Hochberg. Thanks for being with me. I'm Keith Stewart from Read the Line. We'll see you in 7 days.